Okay, welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. Sorry for the fan hum in the background, but it's a very hot, humid day here in Southern California again. This interview was done quite some time back, and I just got it. I would point out there are portions of this that no longer reflect current thinking, which is true for anyone who does constant research. You will constantly update what you believe to be accurate. My reflections of history, ancient cultures, monoliths, all these types of things have been updated since this interview. But anyhow, let's jump in and take a listen. And at the end is the road trip info.
And today we have a guest who has put some controversial but very vibrant and vivid videos on the internet that have gotten a lot of people clicking, and a lot of people talking, and a lot of people thinking. Some people debunking. And we'll talk about all of that. Our guest today is Crrow777. He is an extremely popular YouTuber. You can find his YouTube channel. You just go to YouTube and look up Crow with 2 R's, 777, and you'll see the kind of things he does. I'm looking at his channel right now, an enormous amount of views. Some of these have over 300,000 views, 200,000 views, those kind of things. And really interested in how he got in this line of work and what he hopes to accomplish by. We'll also talk about some of his theories. Crrow777, welcome to the program today.
Thanks for having me.
So how did you get into all of this?
Well, I've been an amateur astronomer since the mid-'90s. Is when I bought my first kind of large 8-inch robotic scope. But what really started the current progression was the supermoon of 2012. I had some family members over, and we're reviewing the supermoon with an eyepiece. I didn't have the ability to film through my scope at that time. And during the course of the night, my nephew spotted what he called the tumbling black triangle. We all took turns at the eyepiece, and indeed, over about 2 or 3 hours, we saw an endless line of black triangular objects going across the face of the moon. And at the end of the evening, my brother-in-law spotted 5 to 7 in formation, and that was really what got me started. The next day, I got the coupling tools I needed to get a camera on my scope and begin filming. So that's basically where it started.
And I got to say, you get some remarkable images, and the fact that all the prices of the cameras and everything, I'm sure you have quite a bit invested. But still, compared to what it used to be years ago, you can really capture some remarkable stuff with off-the-shelf technology.
Yeah, that's true. In this kind of game, in my opinion, resolution is everything. So what I have done is tried to make a progression towards improving the quality of the video. At the end of the day, if you shoot something and the video quality is not very good, it really doesn't add much to the conversation. So that's really the main goal. And it is true that with modern DSLRs that shoot HD, you can get some pretty darn good images just with that.
How did you come up with the moniker Crrow777?
Well, it was a play on my name, Crow Triple Horn. And to be honest with you, if I had it to do over again, I would have just called myself Crow. There's so many people that get caught up in trying to, decode the secret meaning in what you've done. And the truth is, when I set up my channel, I had not used YouTube much at that time, and I just did it to stand out, basically, maybe almost as a branding object. But if I had it to do over again, I think I'd just call it the Crow channel.
Has this taken off beyond your wildest dreams in terms of popularity?
Well, yeah, I guess to be honest, when I first got the camera and I had seen the black triangles, after I started to begin to film, I thought, wow, I'll never catch anything like this again. But having kept at it, I've caught some very amazing things. And, the equinox shot in 2012, the fall equinox of the lunar wave, is really what began to demonstrate in my mind that what we have been told about the moon, space, NASA, all these things, they're just not correct. And direct observation led me to understand that there was a reason to do this and a reason to keep pushing, because it takes endless hours to film the way I do. But it's worth it at the end of the day because it gets people thinking.
Well, just some of the headlines here. I'm looking at some of your popular videos here. UFO fires its gun into chemtrail twice. Updated moon hologram. The moon is not what you think. Spaceship filmed firing thrusters in front of the moon. Is this a chem tracking device being dropped near San Diego? Now, a skeptic might say, how can one person happen to be looking at the right place at the right time in the sky and getting all this this great footage? It just seems impossible. Is it just that, from your view, is it just that other people aren't looking?
Well, I mean, that's a big part of it. A lot of people just don't look up, but the truth is anyone can do this with one ingredient, endless hours. That's what it takes. It is not an easy thing to do. You know, as an example, if you're an amateur astronomer and you want to look at the moon, most people never really look at the full moon. And the reason for that is it's kind of boring. There's no features, there's no shadows. It just looks like a flat white disk, basically. And what you find is that when people do look at the moon, it's for short periods. Now, what I'm doing is I'm spending hours. Some of the videos you see up there, I mean, it could be 2, 3, 4 weeks worth of filming to see that 30-second clip. So really, that's the ingredient, time.
Now, in terms of UFOs, what kind of things have you captured? Is it the traditional UFOs that are reported in discs and things that we think of, or do you tend to see something different?
Different. I would say vastly different. I've kind of reached the conclusion that what most people have in their minds is more of a Hollywood image of, you know, what's been seeded out into the consciousness of the public. What I have found, you know, you mentioned the orb that fired into the chemtrail. That doesn't really match the description of anything we've seen. It looks like a glowing white ball, and 2 like plasma shots come out of this thing and go into the chemtrail cloud. So it really defies description. But to be honest, we're at such a state of technology now that when I shoot these things, I always start with man-made. Is this man-made? What am I looking at? Is there anything that can tell me this is not man-made? And the truth is, I would say 90% of the time, very few exceptions. The shooting orb is maybe an exception where you come up saying, I have no idea what that could be. But all the other things, I would say they're mechanical devices, mostly, that we haven't been told about them.
So do you think that they're mechanical devices of human origin or elsewhere?
Yeah, I think that's the logical place to start. I mean, you really have to have some incredible evidence to make the extraterrestrial claim, don't you? And so how you get that evidence, I'm not sure. I mean, you would have to, I guess, witness something that is so far beyond what you would consider human ability to even begin to think that way, in my mind. And another thing is, you know, all these lunar objects that I've shot, you know, I don't think they're near the moon. As a matter of fact, I'm certain they're not. What we're seeing is things transiting in front of the moon. And I've stated in clips that I don't believe we can go above low Earth orbit. But they're mostly in straight lines. Now, when you consider what that means, it probably means it's in an orbit, a low Earth orbit. And so I guess you'd consider, in my mind, if it was some little green man from another galaxy, he would be flying at will any which way he wanted, as an example.
So let's talk. You've mentioned it several times now. So I know we've had Rob Shelsky on the program, for example, who feels that the moon is a man-made object, or at least not of natural origin, and that's a very controversial idea. And I think probably your theory would fall into the category of being extremely controversial as well. What is your theory regarding the moon?
Well, you know, I had used the word hologram for a long time, but the problem with that is we just don't have the correct words to describe what I think we're seeing. So I've kind of walked away from that because using the word hologram, in my opinion, is incorrect. So what I'm saying now is what we're seeing is a facade. It's not a rock in space, and there's a lot of reasons to think that. One of the things that I always point out to people is in my career of viewing and filming the sky, I've seen many hundreds of fireballs that we're told are meteorites coming down. I've seen a number that probably hit the ground somewhere. Now, in all this time filming the moon, nothing has hit. I mean, thousands, many thousands of hours, years now, nothing has ever hit the moon, and yet there's no atmosphere there to burn up a meteorite. We're told most burn up coming in here. And we're also told there's a powder, you know, a fine powder over much of the moon. But what we see is an unchanging environment, and what everybody knows about life is the one constant is change. And yet here's this moon it seems to stay just about the same all the time. And that's one example. But when I filmed the lunar wave, it took, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks for me to actually understand what had happened. And when I finally did, it kind of shook me to the core because I realized it was a film event. Then after a line of everybody, CCD chip engineers, camera shop owners, repair guys, physicists, just all a huge line of folks looking at it, some truths became known about that clip. It was shot early enough in the evening at 8:30 in September near the fall equinox. We can demonstrate that that wave is not crossing the video frame, that it's just, local to the moon there. There's an energy pulse that's filmed as the lunar wave starts at the bottom of the moon in that particular clip, which is the best we have. And that energy pulse demonstrates curvature as if the pulse is flowing over a spherical object. So, I mean, that kind of address what you've asked me?
Yes. So in other words, it's some kind, the moon, if I understand correctly, the moon may not be a physical structure at all. It might be, for a lack of better term, some kind of projection or some kind of created electronic image that we're seeing. Is that kind of the idea?
I think the idea of what you just said is very close to where I'm arrived at. But I think the words that we have to describe that keep hearkening back to technology that we would associate here.
Right.
And I'm not sure that covers it because, you've got to imagine what it would take to do this. Half the people that come and see this and they think, boy, this guy's crazy. How could this even be done? And a constant thing you hear is, well, wait a minute, what were the ancient Greeks seeing?
Well, right, exactly. That was going to be my point. That was my point.
Yeah, but the truth is that's really kind of a misled avenue of approach because we are seeing a moon. They saw a moon. So regardless of what we saw, if in fact we're looking at a facade of some sort, a construct, then it could be very well that they saw it. And I have also Russian research from a gentleman that I posted. And the reason I posted it is just because I had come to certain conclusions about the wave. And in his research, he died in 2011, so a year before I even shot the wave. He had described this phenomena, and 3 of the things he said lined up perfectly with what I had come to believe. One of those was that this happens near equinoxes most frequently. The second thing was I had been saying best chance is near a full moon. Well, he dialed it in because he held secret government positions and was quite a scientist and a bit of a genius. He said in the third phase all the time until 2012, which is near the full moon. And then he went into the importance of the vernal or spring equinox up to the month later or the full moon that we call Easter. And these things just lined up, and I thought that was a bit more than coincidence. So there are other people alive on the planet who had described this phenomena before I filmed it. And up until I knew this, I thought I may have discovered it. That's not the case. There are other people who are aware of what's going on.
So I want to go back to the question of the ancients, or even let's not even go to the ancients. Let's go to people who lived in the 1800s. Certainly people wrote poems about the moon and talked about the moon and seeing the moon. To me, it would seem that if the moon is, and I'll use this phrase even though it's not exactly correct, but something like a hologram, and obviously even if mankind would have the capability to create something like that today in 2015, I would think it would be highly unlikely that mankind in the year 1800 would have. So that means, to me, if you are correct, and this is something like a hologram, using our limited language here, that it would have had to been created by something other than man. Am I onto something here?
Well, the Russian research would back you up 100%. In the Russian research, and again, I want to state categorically that I will support the 3 items of that research that line up with where I have come, but he says a lot of things that are so far beyond my ability to ever vet in my lifetime because he held secret positions and was basically a genius. But what he says is that the moon showed up at 18,000 BC and it was put there and not by men. That's his statement. And people can look at Katim Alexander's work. His nickname was Hadibov. On my channel, there are videos that talk about the Russian research. There's links in the descriptions that can get people going. It's rough going because you have to do the translation, which is not an easy thing from the Russian. So while I can't tell you how that moon came to be, I can point you to the Russian research, which is beyond my ability to vet, or I can tell you what I have come to understand, that simply the moon is not a rock in space, and open-minded observation over a long period of time by any individual will give you the possibility of getting into this vein of understanding. Observation is everything.
Another topic that you cover on your channel, which has always fascinated me, I'm not sure if I feel that it's anything sinister, but I've always been curious about it, is the area of chemtrails. And actually, going back even to 2009, I interviewed the late Jerry E. Smith about his theories on contrails and chemtrails, going back that far. So talk to us about the subject of chemtrails and what you've been able to capture with your camera.
Well, I have many objects. It's gotten harder of late to catch things, and even catch chemtrails. It's getting more difficult because of the way they're doing it. But I'll state categorically, chemtrails are a fact. And anyone who doesn't believe that has not observed, and anyone who doesn't believe that is accepting the counter-argument that's been put out that we're looking at ice crystals or contrails. There's plenty of research out there that shows that modern high-bypass jet engines don't really produce contrails to any degree. But I live in a flight path in Southern California. I have an inbound and an outbound. I have never seen a commercial aircraft leave a contrail, never, in 10 years of living where I currently am. Having said that, we have monitored and shot enough weird objects near planes spraying persistent chemtrails to understand that there's something very unusual going on. And to take that a bit further, anyone can look up documents like the Air Force document that is titled something to the effect of owning the weather by 2025, where the stated objective is to be able to control and manipulate weather at will using aerosols sprayed from planes. We can look at the Olympics when they were in China. It was openly admitted that they had a weather modification bureau, and as a matter of fact, there were articles written in 2009 that said that bureau made some mistakes and they caused one heck of an ice storm or a blizzard in that year. So weather modification is a factual look. You can look this up and understand that it's been done for a long time and that the Air Force is actively trying to own the weather by 2025. But to take it into the observational realm where I am, we can witness this happening. We can watch the sky go from a clear blue day to a milky white mess in a couple of hours. And I have, endless video on my channel to demonstrate that. And that doesn't even really cover all the bizarre objects that we have shot associated with chemtrails that are typically called orbs.
Now let's go with the thought that that these things, the moon piece and the chemtrails and so forth, are being covered up by the powers that be. Have you gotten any pushback on your channel?
Sure. My number counts are always questionable. About the third or fourth video up was the lunar wave, and I got all kinds of attention I wasn't expecting. And there has been just concerted attacks on and off. And then not too long ago, there was a real debunk push where this channel or that would announce we're going to debunk you. But then 24 videos later, they're still at it. So you can kind of see the difference between challenging someone's opinion or just kind of wholesale rapid firing.
So what would
goes on all the time.
What would you say to, there are a lot of skeptics out there who are saying, and this is not me saying it, but I'm sure they're out there saying something like, well, this guy's obviously faking these to get page views. Maybe he's even just putting us on. Maybe he's a closet debunker and he's just trying to get a rise out of these people. What would you say to maybe people out there saying things like that?
Well, I would say that I built my channel on trust, and you can go look at my channel trailer where I take a pledge that says I will never fake or run misleading video or edit video in a way that is misleading. I won't do that. People got to realize that when you put this much of your life into getting footage, you're serious about this. You're not going to play shenanigans when you've spent 2 weeks to get a 5, 10, 30-second clip. When you've done that, it's a valuable thing to you, and you want to do the best that you can with it. And again, go look at my channel trailer where I take my pledge, and then I guess you have to be your own judge of whether things are trustable. But I would also point out, you can compare my videos across time, and though my camera has gotten a little bit later of late, you will recognize that there's a similarity throughout the video. So that's another way to kind of show that it's a constant thing that I've been doing.
What has been the one video that you're most proud of or most amazed by?
It's got to be the lunar wave. To this day, the 2012 footage of the lunar wave, which was the first catch and the best catch, every time I look at that or see it like on a 62-inch monitor, it staggers you because it is so far outside of the possibilities that were told to you when you were growing up, when you were in school, when you lived your life as an adult. When you see that, your mind just reels trying to put context around an event that should not exist.
So let's say that all of these things are what's the word I'm looking for? All of these things are part of a bigger conspiracy. What do you think that is? I mean, is this a U.S. government thing? Is this a worldwide conspiracy? Has this been going on for decades? What do you think that you've possibly tapped into here?
Well, you see a lot of channels these days on YouTube looking at the news as an example and showing just the wholesale fraud of fabricated events and these kind of ghoulish events that are pushed so heavily in the American media and the global media to some degree, but I'm less exposed to that. And what you see is these very fraudulent events that are shaping public consciousness. They don't have an edge. There is no state where it stops. There is no border where it stops. There is no country where it stops. And I have stated for the record that I believe we're living in a closed system. I have said I don't believe anything goes above low Earth orbit. You can look at videos where I have filmed things that are high enough to be considered probably in space, but yet there is no footage of a rocket going all the way out of our atmosphere into space. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of footage of these rockets arcing out over the ocean. There's even footage of some of them coming back down while we're being told they're headed into space. I think what we're seeing here is that the global community, through history, has had the very place they live misdescribed to them. And I think space has been misdescribed. The sun and the moon are misdescribed. I don't think there's really many facets of life that haven't been. And to call that some kind of a conspiracy, I mean, I'm not sure what you do call that. But at this point, if you look at people taking apart all the false news that we get, you can understand that there is a relationship to everything that is going on. And we're just in a period of time where the common man is beginning to challenge what we have accepted for so long, and we're finding an endless line of problems.
Do you ever fear that maybe somebody will take you down and say you can't post those videos anymore?
There's really no reason to fear. I'm not harming anybody. I'm just a guy. I'm not important enough to merit that kind of attention. And what we see from the false media events that are constantly pushed is the manufacturing of fear. It's a control mechanism. I don't have any fear in that way, and I don't think I have any reason to have fear in that way.
So obviously you feel, because if we can't escape low Earth orbit, you feel the space program is a fraud.
Yeah, I have stated many times categorically that NASA's mission is to ensure that you have no idea what is above the blue sky you're looking at.
Interesting stuff. What are you excited about today? I mean, what things are you seeing? Are there any new vistas that are opening up? What's kind of your hot button today? I know you're very into the lunar wave, but what other things are kind of floating your boat these days?
Well, at this point, I've been at it for a while now. I've got quite a few followers, and I've taken a couple weeks here to kind of step back and reassess how I'm going to move forward. I'm almost going at this like I'm entering a new cycle. And so in that time, I'm going to decide where I'm going to put my effort and how broad a brush I will use to paint with. The main goal here, let me put it this way. I see so many channels out there, like you'll see these people say the Earth is flat and this is what it looks like. And what you see is an endless line of fights that is not helping anybody with anything. My main goal is to just get people to challenge basic tenets of what we've been told using demonstrable video evidence or logic, just to look at something and say, wait a minute, is this really what we have been told it is? To me, it's kind of like the 100th monkey. If you can get enough people to begin considering, there's really no need to make up a new theory to try to explain what you're actually looking at. All you really need to do is call it into question, because as a group of human beings on this planet with a combined mentality, I think that's really the important starting point. It's just to understand, wait a minute, what we've been told is not correct.
And where can people connect if they want to check out your channel and everything you do?
They can catch me on YouTube. That is really my only online source of contact. And the YouTube channel name is Crrow777 with 2 R's, Crrow777. And they can send me private messages or comment there.
Very good. Well, Crrow777. Interesting stuff. I say, hey, check it out. Decide for yourself. It certainly is thought-provoking, and we're so glad to have been introduced to your channel and to you and your thoughts on it.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
And thank you for tuning in, and I'm sure that Crrow777 would agree with me. Keep your eyes to the skies. We'll talk to you next time on UFO Encounters. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, in closing, again, sorry for the fans. I have like 5 fans going in here trying to keep it cool. The road trip is coming right along here. I've got a bunch of things planned. Among other things, I have added a couple locations where I'm going to attempt to optically shoot 100 miles. If weather conditions, temperature, and things like this permit, I will be doing some tests of this type. I would like to shoot an object at vanishing point if it's, even at all possible. Along with all the other things that I do, including shooting in every state, monitoring chemtrails, doing the night shooting that I'm typically known for, and catching the parts of the lunar cycle that I'll be able to see while I'm out there. These distance shots and just seeing exactly how far we can see are going to be part of what I'm doing. So again, the funding is going to be open for just a few more days, and thank you to those who have contributed.